In today's module, we'll be thinking about teaming, working together across multiple disciplines in order to plan effective home visits that integrate well into families' routines. Here's my contact information. You can find me online at leadinclusion.org. You can email me at young@leadinclusion.org or find me on Twitter at Ann Jung. What I'd like for us to do to begin is to reflect for a moment and think about how we currently plan what will happen in a home visit. How do we work together as teams to determine what we will do on any given home visit? How are we integrating physical therapy, occupational therapy, special instruction, speech and language pathology services, so that they are integrated with one another and integrated within a family's routines? How do we ensure that we're getting the most out of our home visits, that families are getting the most out of our home visits so that they're able to use the information that they glean? As we talked about with the consultative service delivery model, how are we delivering that so that we're getting the most out of our home visits? And what is the right way to model? We talk a lot about modeling for families, how we model our strategies so that they can use them when we're not there, as we talked about with consultative service delivery. How do we do this and incorporate this into our home visits meaningfully? How do we meaningfully model for families? The learning targets for this module include blending the functional assessment information with developmental assessment information from multiple disciplines to develop strategies with families. And I'll introduce you to a home visit plan that you can use to plan each home visit so that you have an idea of, so everyone has an idea of exactly what we intend to accomplish and how we'll go about that, how we prioritize all of the information that we could share with families to know how we spend that time that we have with them. Determining strategies with families is much more an exercise of team problem solving than it is having the right bag of tricks. Everybody on the team has excellent strategies. We've all been to school to learn strategies that we have to share with families, whether you're a physical therapist, special instructor, speech and language pathologist, vision specialist, occupational therapist, and so forth. You all have training in the strategies that you'll share, but the greater challenge becomes in integrating those, personalizing those, individualizing those for a family, and making them fit the family's priorities and that family's everyday routines. It's important that every family feels like they have a comprehensive set of strategies that's doable, that's easy to incorporate into their everyday routine, and that they don't feel like they have a set of PT strategies and OT strategies and special instructor strategies, but rather that everybody's on the same team, seamlessly creating a set of strategies that are the child's strategies, that are the family strategies, but not so clearly discipline specific. Of course, information changes. There's always new research, new information, new ways of incorporating strategies and new strategies that come about. And the best way I can think of to keep up with those strategies after graduation and 20, and some of us 20 and 30 years into our careers, is to stay connected with a professional organization, Division for Early Childhood. Division for Early Childhood is a division of the Council for Exceptional Children. These are membership organizations that provide journals, both research, original reports of research, as well as practitioner journals. They have conferences as well, and a set of recommended practices, and these really are, this is really the place to stay plugged in, to stay up on the field of early intervention regardless of your discipline. As we think about developing strategies as a team, it's important to remember that families don't want to become therapists. Families want to be their children's parents. They want to be their caregivers, and enjoy everyday life. They don't want to feel like it's therapy time. And so as we're developing our strategies as a team, we don't want to say, this is something you have to do 10 times a day. I can remember when my oldest child was a toddler, he had injured his left sternocleidomastoid muscle during birth, had torticollis, had a large piece of scar tissue that had to be removed, and after he needed physical therapy. And I can remember the physical therapist talking about the importance of doing something 10 times a day. And I remember spending a lot of time stressed about, am I doing it enough? Are they doing it enough at childcare? Is my husband doing it enough? And then I remember a physical therapist that was at the program where I worked. And Jerry just had I don't think he'd ever heard of routines-based intervention or a routines-based interview. But Jerry just naturally fit strategies into everyday routines. And I can remember Jerry saying, show me, he came over to the house, came over to the house before home visits were so much a thing in Alabama, but he did come over and said, show me where you feed him, and show me where he spends time, and where you change his diaper. And he said, when he's eating, bring the spoon this way, so he has to turn his head to get it. When you're changing his diaper, cover up the mirror and turn his body around the other way, which is tricky to change diapers the opposite way of how you're used to. When you're playing with him, bring toys this way, so he has to turn his head, and showed me, how to use the routines that I was already doing as a way to provide these strategies. And in that way, I didn't feel so much like a therapist, and I didn't have to worry, was I doing it enough, because it was naturally incorporated into my everyday routines. And really, I only had that one strategy or one set of strategies. So many of the families we serve, they have many priorities across many developmental domains, and it can feel overwhelming. I felt overwhelmed with the one strategy, so I can only imagine when families have many strategies to incorporate. So thinking about these integrated across disciplines and integrated into routines can help families from being overwhelmed and feeling like we're trying to turn them into therapists. The best strategies maximize natural learning opportunities, and this is really what we want to do. We want to get an understanding of what families' routines are using something like a routines-based interview, where we can understand what families do every day, how they spend their time. Even without a formal interview, we're gaining information about what families do, how they spend time every time we go on a home visit. And this information helps us understand where children and families are spending their time, so that we can meaningfully incorporate our strategies. This is a billboard, to give an analogy for this, a billboard that you might see on the side of the road. It's incorporated in your everyday routine. You may pass this on the road, but it's sort of stuck there in your environment. This ad is different. This is qualitatively different. Big ad with the grass mowed up to it. This advertisement, it took more creativity, it took more work. But this ad uses the environment as a source for the ad. The same here, Benjamin Moore paint ad. It's using the environment as a source for the ad, rather than just being an ad stuck in the environment. This, the FedEx screen printed on the side of the t-shirt, makes it look like he's carrying an envelope. Again, it's creative. It took more work to think of this. But it uses the environment as the source for the ad. I love the metaphor here. Here we have something broken, something we might not like it the way it is, but we've used this in the environment as a source for the ad. How often is it that we see something that we'd like to change? We wish this in the environment were different. We wish this child had a different opportunity, or something were different about the environment. How can we sometimes use those experiences or those components of the environment as a source for learning? It takes more creativity, but how can we do that? The Mr. Clean ad, and my favorite, stop smoking. Each of these takes more work, more creativity. It takes more work for us to work as teams, to think about, what does this family spend time doing? What are their priorities, their interests? and then where can we find a source for learning and development. And frankly, many families are unable to incorporate 15 strategies that we've given them, follow through on these. If we haven't done the work to help them incorporate these into their everyday routines, using routines is really the key to helping families integrate strategies and be able to follow through in a way that's easier for them, that doesn't feel like they've been turned into a therapist. Next, what I'd like to do is share with you a plan, a home visit plan, a structure for home visiting. You may be thinking, if I'm not using a toy bag and designing my own discipline-specific strategies as a primary provider, what do I do? What is the structure of a home visit? This isn't something that many of us were taught in school. Many of us were taught the intervention strategies that we use. We were taught what to do if a child is needing support with language, or a child is needing support with behaviors or motor skills. But we weren't always taught the way to work with adults and to support other adults to implement those strategies using a consultative service delivery model. So in the module, there is a home visit plan that you can use. You're welcome to use this, modify it, however works for you. But I'd like to walk you through the components of the home visit plan that you can use to begin working together to integrate strategies across disciplines within everyday routines. The first thing that we want to do ahead of time before the visit is really identify the purpose of the visit. What did I say that I would do last time? Where did we leave off? And you'll see on the summary form in the home visit plan that's how we end our home visit. Is there anything that I need to look into or bring or find out before next time? And so we want to make sure that we do that. We then take a look at the priorities in order that families have listed during our voluntary family assessment. We want to know what's important to them and in what order are those important. And you'll see there can certainly be new priorities that come up that weren't on the IFSP, or priority orders can shift from time to time, and we want to be flexible and fluid, of course, via our home visits. Were there any materials that I need to bring in order to demonstrate something for a family? Of course, we've talked about toy bags already, and so we're not suggesting that you bring toy bags to demonstrate a skill and then you take those away. You may need to try something out. It may be that a family is considering purchasing something, and you can bring something so that it can be tried out. You may bring materials that stay with a family. Again, we would never want to bring a toy bag of materials and then take those away. But if we need materials, it may be that we need to bring materials from another agency. So we're helping a family navigate another agency's application process, and we may have researched that and brought that. And then we primarily want to ask what materials are needed within the home that can accomplish working on this priority. And so I know that a lot of us, it can feel like you're not doing your job unless you bring something in and you're working with the child on the skill. But we've learned already through the other modules that we can have a much greater impact if we think about what's available within this home that we can use to work on this skill. Sometimes it feels like you have to have a certain item. I must have, I can remember when I was working in Alabama as an early interventionist, we used pegboards a lot. You must have this to work on fine motor skills, but we know that's not true. Carl Dunt's research has shown that we have hundreds and hundreds of learning opportunities every single day. It may not be the item that you would like to use to work on a particular skill, but we first and foremost want to identify what within the home can we use. And it may be that you spend an entire home visit helping to organize a toy box, or going through whatever materials are there to sort of sort and come up with a system to organize that, to identify what's there and what can be used to work on any particular skill. Again, you may be thinking, well, the child doesn't have very much. It's okay. There's still many, many learning opportunities, even if the child doesn't have very much. I can remember my daughter, Maisie, when she was younger, she had toys. She had great toys. But there was a period of time, somewhere around 2.5 or so, where she quit playing with toys. And she started putting things together, primarily trash. She enjoyed like cardboard boxes and whatever came in the mail and tape. And, for a long time she didn't really play with toys. In fact, that persisted. And so it really is a myth that children need the latest and greatest toys in order to have opportunities to learn. So we may end up spending time just spending an entire visit just identifying what's there, talking to the family about the kinds of materials, the kinds of experiences that children need to promote the skills that are important to them, and identifying what's there that may help with this. When we get to the home visit, of course, we all start this way, right? How's it been going since last time? How have things been going? And we want to do that rather than just getting to work with the child, of course. We want to send the message that we're here to work with you, the adult. It lets the family set the agenda. We can take notes at this time to find out how things have been going. But we want to send a clear message that we're there to work with the adults. Really from the outset, but this is how even if we've gone on a joint home visit, if it's people from two disciplines going on the same home visit, which really is ideal, as we've discussed, the primary service provider and other service providers going together, we're still together working with the adult, having conversations with the adult that's participating in the home visit. Then the next thing we want to do is find out about new business. We want to ask the family, is there anything new that you want to talk about? Has anything come up since last time? Are there new family issues, new challenges, any kind of new family routines, difficulty routines with routines? The family may want to discuss things just for you to listen. So we can't assume that just because the family is telling you that there has been a challenge that they necessarily want you to solve it. You're there not only to provide information and on development, but they're just to listen, to be an emotional support. So we always want to follow up with, should we try to solve this? Do you want me to help you solve this? Would you like for me to give it a try? Would you like for me to try and find resources to follow up and see if the family wants you to help or really only wanted you to listen. After we've discovered if there's anything new that we need to work on, we can take a look at the old business. Last time I said I would bring this, I would find these resources, and we share those with the family. So at this point we ask families, would you like for me to show you how to do something? When we think about modeling, and if a family does want you to try something out and show them, we want to model in the proper way. We don't want to just get to work with a child and call that modeling. The family is not necessarily going to notice if we're not explicit in our instruction as we model. So we want to describe the strategy. We only want to model if the family wants us to as well. So if a family asks you to and accepts that they'd like for you to show them the strategy, then you show the strategy, work on it with the child, point out how it worked, and then ask the adult, would you like to give it a try now? If the adult doesn't, and they may not in the beginning of our relationship, then that's okay. If they do, we watch the adult do it and we give them feedback and think about routines where that strategy can be used. So let's take a look now at a video where modeling is being used. Let's take a look at how Renee is using consultative service delivery and modeling and a conversation to show others how to use a strategy.
Evan's a very happy baby. He's carefree and flexible, but at times he is stubborn. But he's been a very easy baby for us. Evan loves to play. He loves to interact with people. He loves playing ball, and he loves playing with kids his age and adults and just being around people.
Evan was born about 1.5 years ago, and at the time we did not know that he had Down syndrome. It's been a real comfort for us to find that we haven't been drawn away from our typical day-to-day lifestyle or routine very much because of his disability.
Right now, Evan's very good with finger feeding, but it doesn't work with foods like yogurt. So our goal right now is to work with Evan on the spoon feeding. Yummy, yum, yum. Yum.
When I work with children and families, the outcomes continue to change. For example, in the beginning, Bob and Michelle really wanted to work on independent bottle feeding and finger feeding. And so now he's doing really well with those, so we've moved on to spoon feeding. The best time to work on this for the family is at snack time after they come home from childcare and work. You're ready. You're hungry. More. You want to eat. I think you could just kind of go from right here, and you don't have to provide too much, because he's actually doing it pretty well on his own. He just needs a little bit of guidance to help him go up.
So with the
With the palm of your hand. Just a little bit more back by the elbow. I don't think. Okay. There we go. And then I would go ahead and release it. I think you could just gently guide him up as he's scooping and bringing the spoon up to his mouth.
Okay. Want more? Let's do more. More. More and up. Yeah.
There we go. And maybe just give him a better grasp on the spoon. He's kind of towards the end.
Let's go up. There you go.
In addition to mealtime, Evan's parents also had some communication goals in mind. For example, Evan being able to communicate meaningful words to request people, toys, and activities. Pop! 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 More! More bubbles. Blow. Pop! 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 Pop!
Learning definitely happens best through play. Evan's a typical child and loves to play. We've learned a lot of strategies on how to make his play more rich and meaningful.
Bye-bye. 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 Evan, where's Mama? Hi. Hi, Mama.
Yeah, that was good.
Therapy can be so much fun when it's just part of the family's play activities. It's engaging for the kids and very meaningful for families. Bye-bye, Mama. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Oh, where's Mama? Yeah, you said Mama. That was good.
We've had therapy in the past that hasn't worked, and it hasn't worked because the therapist came in with a rigid agenda and didn't incorporate play into the session. The therapy we have now works very well because the therapists are flexible and they use a natural approach incorporating play into the session.
Not only are they working with Evan, but they're working with us and sharing their knowledge and their experience so that we can work with him for the rest of the week. And it's not so much work, but so that we can incorporate the things they're doing into our, playtime with Evan.
Hey, good morning, Bob. How are you doing today?
Good.
Good?
Evan spends a lot of time at daycare, and so it's important for us to know that the people who are spending so much time with him are working with him on the same things that we're working with him on. And it's very important for us to have the therapist instructing his teachers with regard to the types of things we're working on.
You did? Sleep well? Get breakfast?
Yeah, he's already had his bottle.
You gonna come see Kino? How long have you been awake this morning, Evan?
You know, I love having Evan in my class. Look forward to him coming. The days that he comes during the week, he just kind of lights up the room. Kids look forward to him there. On the days when he doesn't show up and he's supposed to be there, all the kids, like, where's Evan? You know, they go to his cubby and notice his backpack isn't there, and everyone, you know, he's just a great kid to have in my class. It's nice.
And he really does have a good M sound. So why don't you kind of hold one back and see.
More?
More. Go ahead, and then just go ahead and reinforce that production of more. Along with Evan learning to say words, he's also learning manual signs. This facilitates his ability to understand and use language and supports him in becoming a more active and effective communicator.
Hey, Evan.
Oh, does that look yummy?
Oh, you want some sprinkles? Show your paint?
Ooh, pretty paint. Shake, shake, shake. Shake, shake, shake. So how has painting been going?
You know what? It was a problem when we were just using the regular paint because he'd eat it and then throw the brush across the room. Since we've been using edible stuff like Cool Whip and pudding and this Caro syrup with the sprinklers, he's really gotten into it. Yeah.
One of my primary roles when I consult in Evan's childcare setting is to observe the typical classroom day and provide suggestions around modifications of the activities, the environment, or the materials to support Evan to fully participate with his peers.
I enjoy having therapists like Renee come into my classroom. I have a background in early childcare, so I know a lot about providing quality childcare and planning activities. It's nice to have an input from therapists like Renee. They help with positioning a child, feeding, and bringing activities to the level of all the children in the classroom, which is the ultimate goal of a child care provider. You not finished? Can you sit down while you eat? If you're going to eat, Zach, you need to sit on your bottom. Hey, Bob.
Oh. Well, it's almost yellow. It's orange.
Kind of matches your shirt a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Well, actually, this is a spoon that Michelle's been using at home. And what we've been doing is, because sometimes he'll grab the spoon, but he's having a harder time getting it up to his mouth. So if you just provide a little bit of guidance around the elbow area, just to help him guide it up to his mouth, he's been doing really well.
Okay.
Is that yummy, Zach? You like cereal.
Yummy, yummy, yummy in my tummy.
Evan
yummy,
loves cereal,
yummy.
too. And Julia loves milk.
That's right.
That was nice. Yeah, he just needs a little bit of support. And I think eventually we can figure it out in a short time.
Okay. Let's put it in the fridge, Julia.
No, we're fine. Go ahead. Oh, here we go. So if you could just, there we are.
Yeah, man!
That was nice. My time with Evan is very brief, so it's so important that I share my knowledge and experience with Evan's parents and his childcare providers so that they're able to support his development throughout the week. This is really when the progress is made.
Hi, Papa.
after we get through the old business, pick up where we left off, then we can move on to each priority in priority order. You may not get to everything on the IFSP every single visit, but we want to take a look at the outcomes in priority order, how the strategies you already have been working for this, how's it fitting within your daily routine. Every time the idea is, do you have the information you need, and how is it fitting within the daily routines. We do spend time interacting directly with children in order to assess. So sometimes we need to interact directly to see how something's working, if the child's development has changed, if the strategies are working and the child's meeting goals. But we're interacting directly, again, just for the purpose of assessment or modeling, but we do sometimes need to do this. Again, if we go through any kind of challenges, we always want to ask, do you want my help in solving this? Should we work to solve this? Do you need any new resources? Sometimes families can identify a challenge and we need them to show us. Are you able to show me this challenge? I'm not quite sure I'm understanding this. Or can you show me? And sometimes families can show you, and sometimes it's something quirky that happens out in the community, or something quirky that happens every now and then, and we're not able to produce it during a home visit, but often we can. And then we also offer, would you like for me to try to come up with a strategy? Would you like for me to take a look at this? And then we do often run out of time before we get through everything. And so we want to take some time, take a few minutes before the end of the home visit. Take 5 minutes to say, this is where we're leaving off. So next time we didn't get to these two things. Next time we're going to pick up where we left off here. You've said that you'd like for me to look into these two things, and then always leave it with, is there anything else you'd like for me to help with? Is there anything else that you think we should do next time? Again, the home visit planning form is found in the module. I hope this is useful as you plan your next home visit. Finally, just a few tips. As we do team together, we want to make sure that families understand the purpose of the home visit. A lot of times we can be frustrated, families can be frustrated if we've not clearly communicated the purpose. If families misunderstand and believe that the purpose of the home visit is for therapy to be implemented during the visit, they can be frustrated if you're spending your time talking to them. And likewise, if we don't clearly communicate the purpose, we can be frustrated if families leave the room. Both of those things happen, and so clearly communicating the purpose and maybe each time is very important. We want to always tie our visit in with families' priorities and put families at ease. We want families to know that we're not judging them, and that we're there to support them, and that we understand the difficulty of what they're trying to accomplish sometimes. This goes without saying, but in this age of ubiquitous technology, I think it is important to revisit that where we are, be there. And sure, we shouldn't be on our phones, but we don't even want our phones out. We want our phones completely put away so that it's clear to families that we're sending a very clear message that I'm present with you right now. This is the only place that I am right now. We always want to highlight the positive, of course. Sometimes we have less than positive information to share, information that we know that families might be sad about. And so we want to really highlight the positive, highlight strengths, and really emphasize those, especially when we have something negative to share, and always to be able to focus on the strengths and the positive. We know that a lot can be accomplished when families believe it can be. And so we always want to show that confidence that we have in families, show confidence that we have in children, and highlight the positive. Again, here's my contact information, and I hope this is useful as you plan your next home visit.